Hey, everybody, B. Davis here on a Thursday. It's another edition of the B. Davis Substack podcast, and we got a lot to talk about regarding the college football playoff. Not all is well in the CFP land. Big news today. Baylor Athletic Director Mack Rhoades is stepping away from his position due to some events that have happened on the Baylor campus. We'll get to that in a minute, but it also means he will be stepping away as his role as the CFP committee selection chairman, which is really, really interesting. If you remember, Mack Baylor athletic director. He was the one who was really adamant about Texas and OU. If they wanted to leave the Big 12, good riddance. We want you gone. The Baylor president at the time, she was very much in favor of Texas and OU. Good riddance. Good luck to you. We'll be just fine without you. Okay, fine. And Baylor hasn't been all that great, right? Dave Aranda, there's going to be big questions about his future at Baylor as they muddle through another kind of subpar season. So there's a lot of interesting things happening at Baylor right now. But I want to focus on what this means specifically to the CFP, what this means to Texas, Texas Tech, and Texas A&M. Because I think that what has happened isn't really going to change the path, if you will, for these three teams to get to the postseason and where they will finish up. Because I think it's what's pretty clear week in, week out, when you listen to these committee chairmen over the years, when these people step in front of the media, they are simply telling the world what has happened in the room, what have been the discussions in the room. And so I don't think that the committee chairman, who has been, let's be honest, I don't think he's been super positive about A&M because he keeps talking about their defense every week. I don't necessarily think I don't think A&M is suddenly going to jump to number one because I think he's simply reiterating what people are saying in the room. I think A&M is, if Ohio State, Indiana, and A&M all keep winning, I think A&M is going to finish 3, although I personally disagree with that. And I don't think that that's how it's going to end up. Still got a lot of football left. But the fact that Mack Rhoades is stepping away from the CFP committee process and the selection process, I just don't think it changes that much for Texas Tech and Texas, two teams that are in the mix that need to keep winning, right? The mission has not changed for them. Let's start with Texas Tech, right? Right now, they are number 6 in the CFP rankings. They would host a first round game if the season ended today, based on Tuesday's rankings. Texas Tech would host a first round playoff game. I think Tech is still in the mix for that. I don't see the Big 12 champions, even if it's the Red Raiders, I don't see them getting one of the top 4 spots and getting a bye. I just don't see that. When you look at who all is in front of them, I just don't think that the powers that be are going to let a Big 12 champion who has one loss get a first round bye. I kind of think it's ridiculous, but that's just being a realist here. I still think for Tech, the best position is the number 5 spot, right? Last year, what happened to all those first round buys? They all lost. They went 0-4. The teams that played a first round game at home, those were the ones that built momentum and carried it into the second round at bowl sites. And I just think if you're Tech, I think you'd want to play at home. I think you'd want to avoid the long layoff. I think you'd want to play a home game. You'd get a really good draw. You would draw the 5-12 matchup. That's a winnable game, no question. I think if I'm Tech, I want to shoot for that. I want to shoot for getting in that number 5 spot. Texas, on the other hand, Texas is another team that has to keep winning, but there is a narrative that is currently starting to grow that a 9-3 Texas team could make it into the CFP. Now, previously, we've talked about here, and we've written, and other people have said that Texas couldn't afford to lose another game. Well, that is sort of falling off because you look at who Texas is going to be playing in these final 3 games. Number 5, Georgia. Then they play Arkansas, and then number 3, A&M. If you win one of those 2 big-time matchups, there is the thought that that is enough to get you into the bracket, right? Why? Because Texas would have played Ohio State, they would have played Oklahoma, they would have played obviously Georgia or A&M, beaten one of those two teams. Looking down here, and so, and in addition to playing in the SEC, right? Vanderbilt's another team that is that's getting they're getting CFP love. So a lot of good ranked wins. Texas would have at least uh, three top 10 wins on its resume at that point, and it would be hard to say that that team doesn't deserve to be in the CFP. So if you're Texas, you got to you don't I don't know if this Saturday between the hedges is a make or break game. I know a lot of people are going to think it is, but the fact that they've got A&M still hanging out there is a chance to hang around and keep their playoff hopes going, in my view. Because when you look at who else is in the rankings right now, Ole Miss at number 7, Oregon at number 8, Notre Dame at 9, OU at 11, BYU 12. I think what you want, if you're Texas, you want BYU to pick up another loss. You want Tech and BYU to keep winning, okay? Because that way, I think they'll meet again in Arlington, and that game in Arlington could be the winner of that could qualify for the CFP. The other one could be knocked out completely. I think you want Oklahoma to keep winning because you want that win to continue to look good. Notre Dame, I think you need Notre Dame to lose because I think you want, if you're Texas, you want Notre Dame to lose at this point for them to pick up a third loss, knock them out completely. And then you look at the other teams on the list. I think Ohio State and Indiana are basically locks at this point. I think A&M is a lock at this point. Even if, because I just don't see A&M losing to South Carolina. They're definitely not going to lose to Samford. That just leaves the Texas game. So if A&M isn't in the SEC championship game for some weird reason, I still think they're going to be a lock to probably host a first round playoff game. All right, Alabama is right there in the mix. So you've got a lot of teams that are, a lot of one-loss teams that are all right there, and Texas is at the, in my view, is at the top of the 2-loss list, right? But again, this selection committee has turned away 3-loss SEC teams before. Did it last year? Would they do it this year with the Beavos? It's hard to say. Hard to say. I tend to feel like I tend to believe that if Texas can get either the Georgia win or the A&M win, having 3 top 10 wins on your ledger, that's pretty good, right? That would be pretty good. And so, very, very interesting from Texas's standpoint. Looking down at some of the others here, I just look at some of the other teams and I don't want to say that the bracket is fixed because I don't know that it is, but Utah, no, you're not going to be there. Vanderbilt, I don't think the committee wants Vanderbilt. Miami is the team. They hurt themselves. Georgia Tech, USC, then you go on down to Michigan and the rest of the way. Virginia and Louisville, those are the two teams that I thought one of those could hang in there, but both of those I think they've sort of eliminated themselves. So it just feels like to me that we've got a good half of the bracket is already the participants in half the bracket is already established, and where it's going to shake out, who's going to host what, seems to me that's what's still going to figure out here in these next few weeks. But I think we're going to see a lot of headlines about Mack Rhoades stepping away from the CFP selection committee. We're going to hear more about what happened at Baylor. It turns out that he was investigated for an incident on the sideline with a Baylor player. Basically, was cleared of that, but now Baylor officials are telling reporters that they learned more information about a different incident that is non-football related. In fact, there are scant details of this, but it was enough for Mack Rhoades to step away from his position as the Baylor athletic director. So expect to see a lot of interesting headlines coming out of Waco on that pretty soon. But again, I just don't think that this messes up Texas Tech or Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and Texas's path to the CFP. I think we're still on track to get 3 teams in the CFP. The Horns are the ones that got to get some work done. Horns are the ones that got to get it done. And I'd love to tell you that I think they will do it, but we'll see. Georgia is, as Kirby Smart said, is very hard to kill. A&M is going to be looking for blood based on what happened last year, especially if they have a chance to get to the SEC championship game. Texas has a hard road to hoe, but we'll see if they can do it. Lots more to come. Really appreciate you watching, subscribing. A lot of interesting things as November unfolds. Keep it right here. Stay with us. And again, I really appreciate everybody following along. That's it for now. I'm B. Davis. We'll talk to you soon.